So why don't I turn it over to Corrine? You want to start, Corrine?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And yeah, like Dwight said, we are all here to support you, even though we're not going to be physically in the office starting next week. But let's just start hearing from all of you about good things that have been happening this week. You know, tell me something good. I talked to Connie Vera last week. She's on the phone, but she said she was driving and she didn't want to talk, so I'm talking for her. But she got 3 new listings this week, you guys. 1 has already gone pending, and then the other 2 are going active like in a couple days. So people are still doing business, and I mean, that's incredible, Connie. If you want to come off mute, Connie, and chime in, but let's hear some more good things that are happening out there.
We listed Charbonneau, top of the market, yesterday morning. Multiple offers, had to extend the offer date to accommodate all the offers or the activity that we had. So it's not dead yet.
Wow, that's incredible.
Cameron and I and Tyler are going down to the Salem area today. I had 2 parties call, business owners call, that are selling their buildings and their businesses down in the Salem area. And I don't usually do business down there, but I think we're going to have 2 commercial KWPP commercial signs soon on an auto parts store and a closing restaurant. So that's kind of cool, because we're going to give Tyler a good send off on some commercial things. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll probably have both those listed next week, and we're doing the inspections for the first time today.
We're about to do our first Zoom listing presentation.
Oh, good.
Cool, love it.
This is Beth. I had 2 good closings this week. I was on 2 listing calls yesterday. One signed, the other one is cautious because of, you know, the world. And 2 calls, one yesterday, one today, on my 40-acre farm property. So yes, there's still life and a lot of activity and interest out there.
That's great. And then for those closings, did your clients go into the office, or did they send a notary out?
We went into First American and signed, and First American is very proactive and very visible in their proactive status with cleaning. They were given pins that were in individual packaging for the signing. They used those pins. So neither one of I had 1 seller, 1 buyer, neither one were concerned about going into the office.
Great.
Full disclosure, by the way, we also had a listing that was coming soon, will be coming later. But the point there is that our response, or Alex's response to them, was total understanding. We will stay in touch, and he will nurture them regularly until they're ready to go. She's a nurse, and they don't have that. They strictly don't have the time. So that's part of what's going on. But how you react to it and follow up from this point forward will be as critical or more critical than it's.
Right. There's a lot of things going on that we all can't control, but how you react and respond to your clients is important.
So that sounds like it's time for another quote from Peter.
Yes. Let's hear it.
Nothing in life is so bad that it can't be made better by the way that you take it. So that's just exactly what we need to do. We've been through nothing like this before, but we've been through a lot of ups and downs in our market, and those that stay the course and stay in touch. And I probably just one of the interesting stories in 2007, Alex and I did about $37 million worth of condo sales. In 2008, our total volume was $8 million. Alex had not been Kellerized by then. And he started looking around and said, what am I going to do? Because Dad, this is all your fault. which clearly, those of you who don't know, I was responsible for the recession in 2008. But he started using the Keller-Williams models regularly, time blocking, following. By 2010, I had to make him a partner because he was now contributing more than up to 50% of our business by using the Keller-Williams models. And this is one of those times. You're just going to have to buckle down, follow the red book, and get going. And when we came out the other side, our volume, we're doing okay. So that's the key is attitude and work ethic, and follow the systems. I don't know what else to say, but that's how we came out of 2008. And it was Alex who did it, and Keller-Williams, not me. So
that's a good story. And that kind of will lead us into one of our first topics of discussion for today, which is going to be expense management. So as things change in our world, now that's a good time to start changing your expenses, both business and personal. And Heather's going to talk a little bit more about that, but we also want to open it up too to see, does anyone have anything to share about how they've cut costs or saved some business expenses, looking ahead at what's to come and just in preparation?
Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah.
All right, I guess you guys, maybe this will spur some conversation with you, but Gary on his webinar the other day was telling us that now's the time that we need to cut costs and we need to cut deep. And he doesn't just mean that on the market center level, he's talking about agents too. And the thing about the cost cutting, though, it sounds kind of scary. If all of this ends far sooner than we expect, you can always get those things back. So what we want to do is start the conversation by talking about some of the expenses that are within your control. Obviously, the ones that involve you being around other people are going to naturally take care of themselves. But other things to keep in mind, you can cancel some of the things that you won't be able to use right now. Like, so maybe you pay for OnStar or Sirius radio for your car. We're not going to be driving around a whole lot here in a short while. So why not put those on hiatus? A lot of companies are letting you put things on pause. You can put your gym membership on pause. Other memberships, you can pause them or you can cancel them. We were just talking the other day about check your cell phone policy. I mean, I had a device on there that my husband signed up for ages ago that we haven't even been using. So we were able to cancel a line. It's a great time to have your insurance broker check over your car insurance policies. Is there a way that you can bundle any of your expenses, like AT&T and DirecTV or partners, bundle them? You can look at, obviously, we've all heard talk about refinancing your mortgage. If necessary, you can do debt consolidation and roll it into that. We were also on a call the other day, and Wendy Papazan was saying, you know what, if you have credit card bills, the companies really want to work with people now. Give them a call. They will be willing to take lower payments on those credit card bills right now because they understand what everybody's going through. So you can negotiate with them. Everybody's feeling what we're feeling right now, so please don't feel like you're alone at all. Start the conversations. If you have a bunch of weird annual bills or monthly bills that you're not entirely sure how they ended up on your credit card, my friend, the MCA in Vancouver, says every year she cancels her credit card number and gets a new one. So all those things have to reach out to you to collect payment. And that's a great way for you to decide if you really need it or not. I mean, it's a little bit of a sharp cut to do it, but it works. So does anybody have any other things that are jumping out after this conversation that you're going, you know what, that's, I can do this? Any ideas?
I've got a couple things. Oh, Peter, were you about ready to say something?
You're muted, Peter.
wouldn't that be a good thing for you guys to be able to do on a regular basis? Just mute me. Those who have set up their accounts on Quicken or QuickBooks, if you go into the report section and you look under customized, you can actually go down in the very bottom of that rows. You can get just click a button and it'll show you what percentage of every line item you put in there, what percentage of your total expenses it is. And that's a pretty good way to start looking. Just take a quick look, and when something's, a significant amount, see how you can do it. Or you can start at the bottom and say, these aren't important, but that will give you a tool to take a look if you manage to do this on Quicken or QuickBooks. So.
Yeah, Quicken is really easy to start if you haven't started it, because I was researching it for teaching a class here before we had to change our schedule. And once you can link your bank account information with it, and it will import all of your expenses, and it categorizes them automatically. So though they may not categorize the way we would with the MREA chart of accounts, it's still going to have them categorized, and it's a place to start. Another program that's really awesome, it does a similar thing, but you can look at it on your phone, is Mint. So if you want to use Mint, that will help you identify kind of where your expenses are going, and you can decide whether it's something that you really want to cut or not. So those are both great resources. Thanks for that, Peter.
Hey, Heather, on Quicken, you can actually import an MREA chart of accounts.
Mm-hmm.
You can Google that, find that, and import that into QuickBooks, and then it makes it much easier I did it all day yesterday.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's great, Laura.
Self-lesson on QuickBooks.
Yeah, that's a great time for it. What were you going to say, Dwight? Something that you were going to cut?
Well, I had some thoughts. So you can bet that someone like Dave Ramsey is going to be completely focused on how everyone can save costs. So it might be a good idea to get on some of Dave Ramsey's podcasts to see what they're talking about, because it's going to be basically as much as you want to listen to about different ways to save money. When we had Wendy Papasan playing in the conference room, I just happened to be doing some housekeeping of my own, and I was listening to her talk about managing your credit cards, and she suggested that we take our credit card statements and go through every single line item to try and make sure we know what it is, and to also maybe help identify things that we need to eliminate. So if you have some reoccurring charges and it's time to turn those off, you turn those off. I would say that in my own household, I asked Lisa to go to the bank the other day to get some cash. It is possible that if everyone's at home, the ATMs and we're using ATMs and the banks are closed, that you might go to get cash and it might not have any money in it. So I don't know how long many of you have been using ATMs, but I have actually gone to ATMs a few times to get money, and they don't have any money left in the ATM. So I would not be caught without cash if you need to go to the grocery store and you go to the ATM and it's not going to be refilled until the next day. Those are manually refilled. So somebody actually has to go into the bank and put cash back in that machine. So it's always a good idea to bring home a cash reserve just in case that happens. I would say that my wife and I were talking the other day, and honestly, we've been talking for the last few years about eliminating cable TV and using our Fire Stick and a couple of other things. And so we basically decided the other night, this is the moment. Let's just do it. We've been talking about doing it. It drives us crazy to scroll through channels that we don't watch or have no interest in. And so we're moving forward to do that. And that's something that could be done just for a few months, potentially. So depending on your appetite for what you watch, and that may be a possibility too.
Yeah, and it could end up really surprising everybody once you do that, and you think it's been such a big deal in your life, like you're saying, Dwight, you cut it and then realize, you know what, I really don't miss this.
Yeah. I would also say that operating from cash sometimes can be really healthy for your overall budgeting, because you start to realize where you spend your money on. And I can tell you, this isn't anything I ever came up with. Dave Ramsey has probably talked about this 40 million times, and it's something I've learned going through many recessions, that it's a lot easier to control your cash if you actually operate out of cash instead of using credit cards and automatic debits and whatnot. So it might be worthwhile for people to really zero in on that. That helps you identify whether you want to, you know, continue to buy a latte every day, which, you know, the drive-through lanes are open. If we're quarantined, that might be out the window, but right now the drive-through lanes are open at Starbucks. And so, you know, it's going to come down to the small things that add up to the big things. And if you haven't had a closing for a while, or if you lose the closings that were going to happen this month that you were counting on, that's going to start to be a big thing. So Gary Keller said, be brutal, quote unquote, about cutting expenses. Be brutal. And so he is seeing something that's going to be a game changer for all of us in terms of the things that maybe we're used to spending money on. And so I would say that that pretty much describes his perspective, is that you have to look at everything.
Yeah, and then just bearing in mind, you know, as we're working from home or we're confined to our homes, it's going to be way too tempting to be doing a bunch of internet surfing, and then we whip out those debit cards. And so once you cut those expenses, you're going to have to really police yourself and your temptations. And this is going to be a challenge for a lot of us, and just hang in there. Tanya has a really awesome demonstration she's going to share with us that's going to maybe be a good exercise for you guys to look at what expenses you have that maybe you aren't aware of, and just how much money you can save every month. It's pretty cool.
She's going to have to go get closer to it.
Hi, everybody. So one of the things that we've been taught to do as leaders with recruiting to help show our agents what kind of savings they can get here at Keller Williams, we did a little test one. I know these numbers could be a lot higher for a lot of us, but just kind of a simple example. And we can do this. Karina and I would love to do this with each and every one of you if you want to. We can hit your business and we can hit your personal and help you find all the savings we can get for you. So I kind of went through, and in black I put all the different items that maybe an agent would have for monthly costs, quarterly costs, annual costs. Then we added all those up together and put that number up here, and we multiplied that by 12 to see how much they're spending a year. And then we went through and I marked off everything that would be command savings, things that they can do on command that they don't need to pay for elsewhere. So then we marked those off in blue. Some were half cost instead of the full cost. And those savings added up here at 1048. And then I did, since, you know, we're going virtual, right? So let's talk about virtual savings. Maybe we don't need to do flyers anymore. Everything can be virtual. We could do virtual PDF instead, virtual flyers, social media posts. So those are gone. Open houses, it looks like most people are not doing open houses anymore. So we can cut out that extra expense for the open house items that you do. Staging, if you're staging, perhaps maybe we can cut that back and go to virtual staging instead. I know a lot of you are thinking about going to Matterport for walkthroughs, whether you want to do staging in the home or not. So I just cut that one in half. And then, so this virtual savings were $1,200. So the total monthly savings was $2,248, and the annual savings was $26,976. So we went from $3,384 a month down to $1,136 a month, and from $40,680 a year down to only $13,000 a year for expenses on the business side. Then we went over to the personal side. Now this one gets a little bit harder to deal with, but I was very kind on this. I left two. I cut my Comcast in half. I left Netflix and Prime and Disney Plus and Google Play because, you know, your kids are going to want that app, and maybe or maybe not you're going to pay for it. But we cut out the gym. We cut out only one wine club because we all still need our wine. And you're not going to be going to the country club anymore. So let's cut out the country club, your FabFit, your Stitch Fix, cut those out. We have Organics to You, which is a food to the home. We cut that in half. And if delivery ends up going away completely, then that's even more expenses we can cut out. So then on those monthly expenses, we're spending $1,431 a month on all of these extra things, $17,172 a year. We cut back on savings. We saved $1,062 a month and $12,744 a year. So now our monthly expenses are only $369 a month and $44.28 a year. There's so many other things that we could add on here. that we didn't get to, but that's something, like I said, Corinne and I would be happy to hit you guys one-on-one on a Zoom call. Pull out your bank statements, pull out your credit card statements, and if you're not sure, because I know I've got a lot that aren't even up there. Anyways, yeah.
Thanks, Tanya.
You're welcome.
That was really good. And so we want to continue this discussion as a collaborative discussion. So if anyone else has any other cost saving or expense cutting ideas, and the intention of this is not to be doom and gloom, it was just to be over prepared. And I did have actually one question come in about virtual staging. Does anyone do that now and have a good company that they would recommend?
Only thing I know about it, oops.
Yeah, we want to hear you.
The only thing I know about it is our vendor, it's $65 per image.
Box brownie is good.
Wait, what was it called?
Box brownie, like
Okay.
box brownie mix.
Okay.
They are an international company, so prepare for some kind of like weirder response times, but we've used them before and they're not terribly expensive.
Great. That's good to know. And I know some people listening will appreciate that.
Can you repeat the name?
Box brownie.
Fox?
Box, like packing.
Oh, box brownie. Okay. Thank you.
Corinne, this is Beth. One of the things that I learned the painful way, so maybe this would be helpful, is that if I decide that there is a service or an app that I want, I buy it for the year rather than having that monthly charge. And there were two benefits that I found for that. One, if I went to the company and said, okay, I'm going to sign up for a year. If I pay you up front, do you offer a discount for that? And every time I ended up either getting 1 to 3 months free for paying in a lump sum, and then it was done. And two, I had their attention. This is someone that's going to use this app or service or whatever it is. And I also found from a budgeting standpoint, now I don't have a monthly drain. I've already paid for it, and I have a lot more incentive to use it because I've paid for it. So it also stops me from that idle curiosity of, oh, it's a month free. Okay, I'll sign up for it. Here's my credit card. And then I forget that in 30 days, they're going to start charging me. So I have just adapted that policy of either pay for it all up front and really want to use it. If I'm not sure, I ask them for a free month's demo without giving them my financial information. And most of the time they'll do that. If they don't, it's probably not a company I want to continue with. And that's been incredibly helpful in keeping my budget in check. And the other thing that we did personally, we cut the cable tie. We have antenna TV. And at first it was kind of a joke. It was like, we're watching reruns from 1975 or so, some crazy vintage show. But you know what? We adapted and survived, and there's a lot less crap that comes across our screen. And if we really want to see something, we stream it or rent it in some other way. And just not having that, it's not just the financial burden, but it's also kind of an intellectual burden of, I have 102 channels and there's 3 that really have a content that I want to see. So those things have worked. I think the thing that I learned in the recession, this is not a time to get really crazy, silly about cutting my promotional budget. I still am doing the advertisement that's critical to keeping my business going. If I have to cut somewhere else, I'll do that. But again, I've committed to a yearly amount. I have a contract with them, and most of that's been prepaid, so they really like me right now. And it keeps me visible, and I don't have, when this is all over, I'm not going to start from ground zero. I'm going to keep going from where I am. So I think even if I have to cut something else, I'll continue to keep my promotion budget alive.
Thanks, Beth. Those are such great suggestions, and important on what to keep too. Does anyone else have anything to add on expenses? Okay, let's switch gears to, we might be working from home now for a while, and some of you work from home already all the time, but it's a little bit different in this dynamic, not being really able to come in and work in the office, and maybe you have kids and spouses around that you don't normally have. So maybe some people can share what they're doing to make sure that their home work environment is a productive workspace. And I'll start it out like, maybe that means just making sure you have that dedicated workspace. Maybe that means waking up at the same time every day to structure your day. You know, it can get kind of lonely at home. So making sure you're tuning into these Zoom calls. And again, the intention of these is really to be a mastermind of everyone having conversations and sharing what they're going through, good, bad. So please, if there's other topics you want to talk about, you know, share those as well. But let's talk about just making your home workspace productive.
I think for me, I'll offer this. I don't function as well if I'm trying to do business and I'm, you know, in the normal areas of the house. I function way better if I go into an office or a bedroom or a den and I set up my work area and then I focus on on my business and the things that need to be done. It seems to spur a lot more thinking about activities that I have to do. There's no distractions if I do that. And so I've always learned that, you know, at times when we had kids, especially at home, that was the only way to do it. I'd have to go into a room, usually not let anyone know where I went, close the door, and then just work away while the door is closed, and try and condense everything down in terms of the activities so that I'm not, you know, so that I'm working at the highest level earlier in the morning.
Yeah, that's great. And then Emily just added in the chat, still getting dressed like you're going to work, wearing shoes. Sometimes it's supposed to help trick your brain into being productive. And that's great. I've heard that too. Get up, take a shower, get dressed, and work, you know, clothes like as if you're going to leave the house, just to get your mental state in the game. Thanks, Emily.
I put a time lock on the tequila cabinet.
That is a great tip too.
All right, and I'm trying to get this set up. Here we go. Hi, everybody. I'm over here muting people. So sorry, Peter, earlier I muted you because I was just making sure that it wasn't getting too crazy in here. But okay, so I had a few things I found just doing some research yesterday. On Inman, there was an article. There's a lot of articles going about how to work from home. And so some of the things that stuck out to me that they were talking about was, one was possibly, you know, unplugging the TV, hiding the remote, hopefully somewhere you can find it again, but hiding it, you know, so because or even taking out the batteries, because there is that time where if you're working in a living room or close to the TV, there is a, you know, that just impulse desire to turn on something and see what's going on. And it could go on for minutes, maybe hours, and you may not be able to get away from it. And then, yeah, Emily mentioned changing into something that's more work related, like getting out of pajamas, getting out of gym clothes. Your mind does, you know, associate certain clothing that you wear to productivity and working. There was also cleaning and keeping clean the work areas that you're working in. You just have, you know, it's, you know, kind of the whole idea of having a lot of clutter, clutters your mind. It makes it difficult to really focus. And so it just helps with productivity as well. Scheduling meals for definitive times. So instead of just constant snacking or just being like, oh, it's 3, I'm hungry, you know, just having a more definitive schedule with meals keeps things, you know, scheduled and just within your time frames of when to begin work and when to end work. also having, they did say commit to having at least one real estate free day for the week. So you still kind of have those weekends. Don't overwhelm yourself or don't underwhelm. So just kind of there's a middle ground. There is that time you need to have a break. And then also said, identify top three things to hit for your business goals and accomplish them first in the morning. That's kind of something that you could do either in an office or at home. And then take time breaks. So, find a 10 minutes here. What is the ads for Quibbies? Like 10-minute Quibi or something, just watch a 10-minute video or spend 10 minutes on the phone, whatever it is to kind of, take a quick break. Don't, it's really easy to just be in an office and go nonstop, but you can slow down. It can get taxing. And then if you do that day after day, it's just, you're going to want to get the remote more often. You're going to want to go away into the kitchen and just kind of, or, whatever. So those are the things that I found. And those are things that I feel like are good for me, because I'm going to be doing this. And those will actually be my first experience working from home in a position. So I feel like these will be very insightful and helpful for me too. So that's all.
Awesome.
For the moms out there that are, having that kind of mom struggle right now with having young kids around, what are some things that you guys are doing to help yourself and to create a space for yourself?
I'll start that one off. I have young kids, but you just have to kind of designate your workspace, designate your work hours. I was reading some articles about working for an hour and then taking like a 10-minute break to go hang out with your kids, and then go back. Okay, now I'm going to refocus, give them something structured to do, and then go back. And just coordinating if you have spouses. I mean, now people might still have some childcare options, but if things get locked down completely, those might be off the table. But any other moms have any suggestions? Pam, I know you're on. Do you have any tips how you're managing business and being home?
I think Pam might be struggling with her speaker. She just kind of let me know that.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out. Anyone else?
I want to say something.
Hi, Claudia. Please share.
Well, I'm actually wanting help, because what I'm struggling with is my husband's working from home now. And so he's using our home office, the full 8 hours during the day. And so I'm trying to figure out how I can get some time to work without, I don't know. What do you guys suggest for me?
That's a real problem that a lot of people are going to have with spouses all the time. One option, this is an idea I have, is because our job time sometimes can be flexible. Maybe that means starting earlier in the morning, then your husband could do like the more traditional work day, and then you could kind of do an evening, or you could do shifts. I know that's not always realistic, but one thought to try to kill your spouse during this time.
Yeah,
Hi, everybody.
Claudia,
Oh, go ahead, Diane.
I'm going to have that same issue starting Monday, where my husband's going to be home. So, yeah, I don't know. We have a very small condo. Don't know how I'm going to handle that.
Yeah.
So what we've done at our house is my husband has set up his area because he's worked from home already. He's been there. He has one designated space. I have a room that I will be working out of. And then, our daughter is home, and her school has been providing education. And I just got a text that they're going to be doing Zoom Hangout at noon for the kids. So we're going to put her in another space in our home. But one of the important things that my husband thought of yesterday was, that's 3 of us on the internet at the same time and Zooming. So he called and he upped our internet from, I think we were at 40 up and 40 down, and now we're at 100 up and 100 down, and it was like $40 difference a month. Yes, it was a cost that went up, but it's a savings in not having to drive.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are things that everyone needs to think about. If you have more and more people at the home that are working and utilizing the internet, and our daughter will be streaming on Netflix, and if you got little ones, you're definitely gonna have them streaming Disney Plus, right? So you want to make sure that they're not hogging all your internet while you're trying to do Zoom calls or, you know, sending emails. Hopefully it just keeps working.
Yeah.
Well, and for those of us that don't maybe have a lot of space in our homes to have two people working at the same time, maybe it's something as simple as a card table in the corner of your bedroom, or just something like that, where you can actually have a spot where when you put your things out in the way that you like to do business, that they stay there and you don't have to scoop them up every time you make dinner or something like that. I mean, even if it's just something like that, a little card table, it's better. It's just your own designated work area. It will make a big difference to your mindset.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, and it's not always more expensive for more data on Xfinity. We just upgraded ours from 250 to 1G, and it was the exact same price. So it just depends on what kind of promotions they're doing.
Yeah, and I know that from what I've heard is a lot of internet providers are going to be waiving any data caps. So if you're worried about any, if you're worried about any data caps for the next 2 months or so, I think all internet providers are waiving those. So if you're worried about, you know, these conference calls or anything like that, or utilizing that resource, you can still use it without any fear of going over and getting a surcharge. So there's that in mind too.
I would offer this too. I've used an iPad for many, many years, and I've always had a dedicated phone line for the iPad so that I could, if I was out somewhere and I needed to pull over and review documents in the field, I would be able to do that. And I've noticed on vacations, it's always come in handy to be able to get a signal. I can get a signal when maybe we're on vacation places where the Wi-Fi isn't working. We can't get onto the Wi-Fi, or it's slow, or whatever it is. And my iPad works really well because it has Verizon. So that is an option too. I would add this. I know this seems a little crazy, but you know, my relationship growing up with my father was kind of a cats in the cradle thing. And so it was very important to me with my young kids that I did not bring my work into my home. And so to that end, a lot of times I'd be coming home at night and I would have to make a phone call or 2 or 3, or, you know, maybe try to finalize the deal or deal points, counters, whatever it is. And so I would go out to my car because I didn't want to have the kids see me isolating myself at home when I could be giving them attention. And so I would always go out in my car, and if I had to, if it was cold, I'd turn the car on and I'd make my phone calls, and I would do my iPad work. And you know, the kids will look out the windows and see Dad out working in his car. And I think it sent a better message than working at home. I tried it for a while, and it was always, hey, I can't talk right now. You know, go talk to your mother. Daddy's working. I'm on a long call. And I just thought, this did not make me feel good as a parent. So when I went out to the car, nobody came out to the car, and they understood. So, I mean, you know, that was something that worked really well for me for, you know, 15 years probably. So I might throw that out too. I don't mind at all sitting in my car on my iPad because I've been doing it since the iPads came out.
That's so funny that you mentioned that, Dwight, because when I would go out driving somewhere, I would come back. I have a carport, and I would sit in my carport and I would do work for as long as I needed to before I got back into the house, because I don't have children to worry about. But kind of funny, I have pets that bother the heck out of me. So I did a lot of work in my car. So I get that.
Well, and I had a real estate psychologist back in the day. You know, I've been in business a long time. I've said that many times, but there was a real estate psychologist that was really, really popular. And he did a series of tapes, and it was for realtors, how to deal with, basically how to balance your life is what most of them were about. And so back in the day when we had cassette tapes, you know, we would listen to those when we were driving along. And he taught me something that I've used probably since, you know, my first child was born, which was to switch channels. And if you think in terms of, you know, you're on the business channel, and so you focus on business. And then when you're on the personal channel or the health channel or the spiritual channel or the, you know, the wife channel or whatever it is, you think in terms of channels. Once you switch a channel, you're not watching what you were on before. You're completely geared in another direction with full focus. And that became necessary, for my relationship with my family. And so I felt like I was compromising that when I went into the house and did business. And so that's one of the reasons why it was easier for me mentally to get my work done in the car and then come in the house. So it's harder to do with this situation, obviously, because of the, quarantines that are coming, but it's still going to be important to make sure that if you have kids at home, you're sensitive to that.
And those are great suggestions. I thought of another one too, is just incorporating your kids and your family into what you're doing. Kids are curious, and if they're trying to get your attention, if you can kind of show them what you're doing, or if there's a little task like putting stamps on cards or something like that that they can help with, they'll feel more involved and have a more understanding about what you do. If they're older, they can probably do more than if they're 6 or 3.
If they're older, have them start inputting your contacts into command. My daughter wants to build websites, so.
I have a question that's a little bit off topic. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, I was just going to open up now.
Oh, okay.
Anyone wants to talk about?
Well, I'm calling my database, and one of the things I'm concerned about is being very human, and also very credible. And I just want to check, like the reality check that, of course, if there's a quarantine, that would mean that all sales would stop, right? There wouldn't be any more real estate transactions.
Well, you would have transactions hopefully in the pipeline, right? So
yeah,
if they quarantine us on Monday, I have 4 or 5 transactions in the pipeline that I'm still trying to nurture to closing, and we have to make an extra effort to make sure we're talking to everyone, to make sure that there are no issues that surprise us at the end. So if you have transactions in escrow, you have to find a way to move them along, right? You're communicating with the lenders. We all have the same issue. We're all trying to figure out how to do our businesses at home. So the lenders are going to continue to process our loans that are in action, and the appraisers have to find a way to go out. And some of the lenders may make adjustments on appraisals. They may be willing to accept our videos that are online with our listings, plus a drive-by, or maybe a Google Earth view of the house, or whatever. We don't know. For a while, when the market was good, they were doing drive-by appraisals, right? So we're probably going to see some compromises in that area to keep the real estate market going. So hopefully, if anyone hears about that, they'll be on these Zoom calls to offer it. But
new sales, new transactions would be off the table. Is that fair to say, or?
Well, I personally wouldn't work that way. So I would be putting every darn house on the market and keeping every house I can on the market, because at the very least, if someone says to me, I see this home online and we're moving to Portland from California, and we think this is perfect, would your sellers take an offer subject to us doing an inspection in 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
I might consider that. Right? So there's a lot of communicating that would go along as to why that might make sense. But, there's ways that we can do this. I sell lots of homes without people seeing the properties. In fact, we just had one, and the people made an offer, and it's in escrow, and they made an offer, and they weren't in town. They hadn't seen the property. Mm-hmm. And so, we'll probably see some of that, especially if the need is high enough for people that need to, that have sold their home and they're renting and they have to get out of their apartment or whatever it is. They're going to find a way. People are going to find a way.
That's the thing, it's like the whole business of moving. Well, how would you move your house, if there's a quarantine? And another thing, and please understand, everybody, I'm not trying to be negative. It's, as I say, it's very practical. It's based in my work that I'm doing of calling people, and they wonder, well, what the heck? And you see epidemiologists on the news saying, the window's soon going to be closing about where to ride out the storm, And so you need to quickly decide, where are you going to ride out the storm? Because pretty soon you're not going to be, you won't have a choice anymore. You'll just have to be where you are, you know. So it's things like that where you see you don't want to come across as easy as not having any credibility and humanity when you're reaching out to your database, you know.
Well, my personal response, and then I'll be quiet. I know Peter
Yes.
could address this too, and so there some others on the phone. But my personal response on that would be, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And where there's a will, there's a way. I started in 1980, and I had in 1981 I had 12 transactions in escrow in September, and by the end of October they were all gone. And that was that shift. And so if you think about, you know, the 1987 stock market crash and the 1991 Persian Gulf invasion and the 2001 dot-com bubble, and you know, the 97 crash that we had. I mean, we work through all these, and the solutions may not be obvious going in, but they become clear because everyone's motivated. So at the very least, if I have listings online and we're quarantined, and so there isn't anything that's going to happen, then people are going to be inquiring about them, right? So now what I'm doing is activities that set me up for an explosion of business as soon as the quarantines are lifted. So I would much rather put myself in a position where, you know, 30 days after the quarantine is lifted, I have 5 transactions in escrow because of the work I did when no one else was doing anything. You know, the buyers have lined up, they're ready to go through the homes as soon as it changes. Maybe I've done price reductions. If I'm not seeing activity online, why? We can track the online activity. What's going on? Do we need to do a price reduction to spur online activity? I mean, these could be the questions that we're all talking about in 2 weeks, right? So the bottom line is your clients are going to want to see that you are fully focused on doing business, and it's a full-time job, and you're not distracted, and you're not falling into despair. You know, it's a moth to the light all day long. And so being in a position of strength for your clients requires leaning in on education, leaning in on calls, getting in on Connect and seeing what everyone else is doing so that you can literally speak to it with confidence, because that's what people believe. They need people with confidence right now. So, you know, I'm going to find a way. It's not clear other than I know I'm going to be doing phone calls, and I know I'm going to be looking for emails, and I know I'm going to be, you know, seeing if there's any other way I can get anything done.
I'd like to, you know, we have to prepare for the worst, but we may be, and I'm going to, you know, we're all better be optimistic about this, but we may have implemented social distancing and so on to the point ahead of the curve that we don't get there. So the way we're approaching it is we're going to be doing video walkthroughs. We're going to be doing on some listings Matterports. Vacant listings are fine. You know, open houses are off the table. That doesn't mean showings are. Open houses, you have to put yourself or one of your team members at risk. For a showing, you need to have some kind of a policy in place. And the other thing, you know, the language that Mike sent out, basically preparing everyone for the fact that, or buyers and sellers, that things may get delayed, but that's not going to kill the deal, I think is incredibly important too. And we're going to be getting those addendums, attempting to get those addendums signed with all of our current transactions, so everybody knows that if we have a 2-week delay, we have a 2-week delay, but we're going to close, then we'll close on time. But you've got to proceed like it's, I think you have to be prepared for the worst, but proceed today under the current circumstances. And, you know, we'll get gloves and whatever we can find to make showings appropriate. And as somebody else would point out the last time, you have a policy in place with your seller saying, this is what we're going to tell if they want to come and see your house, this is what they have to do. And then follow up with a showing agent that that's in fact what they did, and make everybody feel comfortable. But people buy and sell houses in every downturn that I've ever been involved in. And, you know, back when Noah and I were building the Ark, been a while. So people have to buy and sell houses, and we need to be cognizant. We don't want to be seen as the people who have no social awareness, but at the same time, I think we can continue to move forward and just anticipate that things might take longer. But
yeah, I would add this. If we're quarantined for a few weeks or a month or whatever it ends up being, this entire situation that we're in is a wake-up call for baby boomers. And so I'm already having phone calls, literally at least one a day and sometimes 2 and 3 a day, from people who are baby boomers that are sitting in their homes that are thinking, we should have downsized already. Maybe we missed the peak of the market. And so their questions are, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen to value? Our home is our biggest asset. We wanted to move to Arizona. We wanted to downsize. We're getting ready to do this and that. And so this is a wake-up call, right? So that it means we can't count on the future. We can't count on the market going up for 12 years in a row like it just did. And so, you know, being keyed into those conversations and learning those responses, scripts, you know, for lack of a better word, is going to be very important. So there will be a surge of business, and whether your business will surge will depend on your daily activities going forward right now. So it's going to come down to communication. And if you have listings on the market, you're probably going to have more communications with buyers.
And Emily just shared something that her and Megan are doing as far as reaching out to all their clients and checking in on them and providing a list of resources that are out there for bill assistance, housing information, things like that, as well as things for parents. So they're coming from a place of contribution, but they're touching so many people to stay in contact, not physically touching, but reaching out to so many different people so that they can maintain those relationships and those contacts. So even if people aren't want buying now, you know, when the dust settles or on the other side of this, they'll remember that.
Yeah, so going off of what Kareem said, most of the people that we've talked to have really appreciated that we're not calling to be like, hey, buy or sell right now. We've been like, are you okay? Do you need anything? And kind of put together a little, I guess, MailChimp newsletter that we sent out asking, like, who do you know that needs help, or are you basically willing to help? And people have been feeling more connected around that. So if anybody wants the list or has clients that are struggling or knows anyone who does need help, happy to share the list with anyone who has it, because I know there are a lot of little ones who only get to eat at school. So it's good to have the list of places that they can get food. Things like that.
That's great, Emily. I think that's amazing that you guys are doing that, and it's such a good, you know, your clients will remember that. So we have about a minute left. Dwight or Tanya, you guys want to wrap anything up?
I think, Tanya, you might have a few other things to say, right?
Just as a reminder to be on the call on Monday at 10 a.m. It'll be Monday Mindset. We'll talk about how to get through this in a very healthy way. And we will continue the classes on Wednesdays, or the meetings on Wednesdays and Fridays, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m. Every Thursday is happy hour, virtual happy hour at 4 o'clock. So come on in any way, and don't forget your drink and whatever it is. And we'll keep providing more information, more classes as we have them made available or as we create them. And again, Kareen and I are always available for one-on-one Zooms. Actually, any of staff will be available for one-on-one with you if you need us. Heather, anything?
Oh, sounds good to me.
That's it.
Hey, one more win.
Everybody wants to.
Oh yeah, let's hear
What
it.
are you knitting? Beth,
Hey,
what are you knitting?
we've got one more win. I was trying to talk earlier, but I was on mute and I couldn't figure out why. Mike and I just signed a listing for a little over 11 million for apartment land in Happy Valley, almost 18 acres, and we did that yesterday, going live today.
How did you do it? Were people quarantined? Did you meet with them? How'd you do it?
It's a collection of 6 different neighbors that we've been having conversations with for probably over 6 months. So it took a long time. We did mostly DocuSign to finish things up. There was one family that wanted hard copies dropped off. So I drove out there, dropped them off, and then picked them up the next day. So it's pretty standard. Lots of phone conversations.
What's your plan in terms of marketing when we're going into, maybe lockdown in Oregon?
We're trying to go live as soon as we can. So the plan was originally next week. We're trying to at least reach out to, we're in a beneficial situation because we actually had 5 acres of the 18 already on the market. And so we had a bunch of buyers that have already been lined up. So we have a good list. And actually one of the buyers who's a strong front runner is actually Ben and Bennett's from our office, which is great. So we're trying to keep that conversation going. I have a conversation with him later today, hopefully, to keep things moving forward.
Cool. Yeah, bring those listings on, folks. Bring them on. Keep your conversations going. If someone says, should we? Absolutely. The answer is yes, because that will help ensure a strong start when we pull out of this and enable them to move a lot sooner. So keep in mind that the average party is going to want to hesitate, and the ones that move forward in terms of owners and buyers identifying the properties that they want to see when the quarantine is lifted, if we have one, or however this works out, that ensures that they'll have success and you'll have success sooner. That's the way I would be working right now. All right.
Great.
Are we done?
Yeah.
Austin said we're done.
We're done.
Thanks.
All right. Have a
everyone.
great
And welcome
weekend,
back,
everyone.
Marcella.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming and tuning
Everybody.
in. Hey, Marcella.
Yay!
Newest member to Team Schwab right there.